Well, good morning. Welcome to Daily Videos with me, Pastor Michelle. Today's Friday, January 29th, and let's get started with prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. So, let's hear a reading from Ezra. Thus says King Cyrus of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem. Any of those among you who are of his people, may their God be with them, are now permitted to go up to Jerusalem and Judah and rebuild the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem. And let all survivors in whatever place they reside be assisted by the people of their place with silver and gold, with goods, and with animals, besides free will offerings for the house of God in Jerusalem. And God's love note: don't limit whom I can work with and whom I can work through. King Cyrus was not Jewish, and yet he knew what I meant to my children of Israel. My son Cyrus let me work through him to build up my children of Israel after they had borne so much suffering and exile. Over and over, I've worked with and through people who were not the expected vessels of my message. They have alleviated suffering and comforted and extended love in so many ways. It saddens me that my followers demonize so many people through whom I work. Today, I invite you to reflect on the Cyruses in your own life who have brought you or those you know comfort, love, or access to dignity in some way. Lift them up in your prayers today, knowing that your God can turn so much to the good. I truly believe that. I do believe that the most awful things can come out to, not necessarily always come out to be like good, but it can always teach us. So I think about that. I think about this whole pandemic and what it's teaching us. And I do pray that when we do come out on the other end, God knows when that will be, I do pray that we'll be better people. So, just food for thought. So, my friends, let's continue talking about Mary, shall we? As Mary's pregnancy advanced, a decree went out from the Emperor Augustus: all the world should be registered. The purpose of such a census was not to gauge the demographic makeup of a province, but it was to establish a detailed inventory of individuals and their property. Only in this manner could Rome determine an accurate assessment of what a given region was worth and what it could be expected to yield in taxes. Because Joseph's family had come from Bethlehem, in Luke's depiction, Joseph had no choice but to take his wife and set out on the long journey to Bethlehem. When they arrived there, they found out all the inns were full. The only shelter was that of a stable, and there Mary gave birth to Jesus. Soon, a group of shepherds arrived, and who had been sleeping in the nearby fields. To restore her state of purity after the birth, Mary and Joseph went to Jerusalem to present an offering of purification in the temple, as prescribed by the book of Leviticus. Thus we learn that the couple was poor because they offered a pair of 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons, instead of a lamb. The lesser sacrifice allowed for couples of limited means. A devout Jew named Simeon saw them in the temple, took the child in his arms, and praised God, saying, "My eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all people." And then Luke says, the child grew and became strong and filled with wisdom. The favor of God was upon him. I love that story of Simeon. I always think of Superman when I hear that story. I actually recently preached on it, and I actually didn't use Superman as my reference. I used Friends. There was an episode where Phoebe had like the soul of someone that she had been massaging, and this older person died, and the soul resided in her, and the person wanted to see everything before they died. And at a lesbian wedding, the person that was residing in Phoebe, her soul, said through Phoebe, "Oh, now I've seen everything." But going back to Superman and reference to Simeon, Simeon sees Jesus and just knows right away that Jesus is the Messiah. Somehow he has faith. And I think of a most brilliant scene from the Superman movie where Jonathan Kent, Man of Steel movie, with Henry Cavill, and Jonathan's standing outside, and he looks over at his son who's standing outside, and he has a towel around over him like a cape, and he just stands there, doing the Superman pose, and Jonathan looks at him, and you just know that Jonathan knew that Clark was going to grow up to become something pretty special, something pretty super. So, so that's one of my favorite. I don't know where I was going with that. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Mary the Magdalene. So let's dive into Humans of New York, shall we? So my nickname is Black Jesus. I'm not sure where they get that nickname. I was literally crucified in Vietnam. Wow, those hands. So I'm assuming, I don't know if this is the story. I was captured in Vietnam, and I fell out the helicopter when they were rescuing me from a prison camp. How'd you get captured? I was on patrol. I noticed a bush where there hadn't been no bush before, so I say to the guy next to me, the bush is moving, but he didn't believe me. So I took the bubble gum out of my mouth, and I stuck it on the bush. Then we walked a little more, and we turned around, and sure enough, there was the bush with the bubble gum. I said to my friend, there it is, I told you. Then they jumped out and got us. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine being in war? I can't even imagine it. So my heart does go out, and appreciation go out to every military person, because I can't even imagine getting captured even. That would be terrifying. So speaking of unpeaceful times, let's get to Mockingjay. We're heading down to the dining hall for 1830 dinner when Gail's cumin cuff begins to beep. It looks like an oversized watch, but it receives print messages. Being granted a cuff is a special privilege that's reserved for those important to the cause, a status Gail achieved by his rescue of the citizens of 12. They need the two of us in command. Trailing a few steps behind, I try to collect myself before I'm thrown into what's sure to be another relentless Mockingjay session. I linger in the doorway of command, the high-tech meeting or war council room, complete with computerized talking walls, electronic maps showing the troop movements in various districts, and a giant rectangular table with control panels I'm not supposed to touch. No one notices me because they're all gathered at a TV screen at the far end of the room that airs the Capitol broadcasts around the clock. I'm thinking I might be able to slip away when Plutarch, whose frame has been blocking the TV, catches sight of me and waves urgently for me to join them. I reluctantly move forward, trying to imagine how it could be of interest to me. It's always the same. War footage, propaganda, replaying the bombings of 12, an ominous message from President Snow. So it's almost entertaining to see Caesar Flickerman, the eternal host of the Hunger Games, with his painted face and sparkly suit, preparing to give an interview, until the camera pulls back and I see that his guest is PETA. A sound escapes me. The same combo of gasp and groan that comes from being submerged in water, deprived of oxygen to the point of pain. I push people aside until I'm right in front of him, my hand resting on the screen. I search his eyes for any sign of hurt, any reflection of the agony of torture. There's nothing. PETA looks healthy to the point of robustness. His skin is glowing, flawless in that full-body polish way. His manners composed, serious. I can't reconcile this image with the battered, bleeding boy who haunts my dreams. Caesar settles himself more comfortably in the chair across from PETA and gives him a long look. So PETA, welcome back. PETA smiles slightly. I bet you thought you'd done your last interview with me, Caesar. I confess I did. The night before the quarter quell, well, who ever thought we'd see you again? It wasn't part of my plan, that's for sure. Caesar leans into him a little. I think it was clear to all of us what your plan was, to sacrifice yourself in the arena so that Katniss and your child could survive. That was it, clear and simple. PETA's fingers traced the upholster pattern on the arm of the chair, and said, but other people had plans as well. Yes, other people had plans, I think. Has PETA guessed, then, how the rebels used us as pawns? How my rescue was arranged from the beginning, and finally how our mentor, Haymitch, betrayed us both for a cause he pretended to have no interest in? In the silence that follows, we'll continue. I thought I would leave you with a little bit of a... So, we'll continue that interview tomorrow. God bless you.